Wednesday in Berea, Mary Kay, the Browns back to work getting ready for the Falcons. But let's start here. A few minutes before we started taping this video, you posted a story about the Haslams and John Dorsey, and it is going to be GM John Dorsey who's going to lead this coaching search for the Browns, which I think most Browns fans see as very good news.
Yes, I've been told it is official now. They have turned the coaching search over to John Dorsey. He will be leading the charge, and nobody's going to overrule him. Nobody's going to tell him he can't hire this person or that person. He has carte blanche over the whole thing, including if he wants to have an assist from a search firm, which I don't think he will do that because he's got enough people around him. In addition to all the people that he knows over the last 26 years in the NFL, he's got Alonzo Highsmith, he's got Elliott Wolf, he's got Ron Wolf, who is sort of an unofficial consultant on these types of things because he knows everybody in the building so well. So I think they can handle it on their own.
And look, you don't hire a guy like John Dorsey with that deep scouting background, that background as a GM in Kansas City, a guy with so many connections too, like you've mentioned. You don't hire that guy and then neuter him when it comes to picking a head coach. You brought him here to turn this franchise around, and that's a part of it now that Hugh Jackson is gone.
Yes, and now I think the next step is once he gets his man in place, they need to change the organizational structure so that the coach reports to John Dorsey instead of two people in Jimmy Haslam's ear. That creates some of that internal discord or some of the disconnect that we've been hearing about over the past few years. They kind of need to align things under John Dorsey, and if for some reason down the road it doesn't work out, then maybe both of them end up going or something like that. But this way, I think that it would just streamline the process, and I think you'd have less of that interference.
Yeah, we've seen this structure kind of torpedo two separate regimes going all the way back to Ray Farmer and Mike Pettin, who got together before 2014 and just could not make it work under this structure. Some bad news for the Browns. Christian Kirksey goes on injured reserve today. He is out for the season. E.J. Gaines as well to injured reserve, the cornerback. He is out for the season. So the Browns getting thin defensively, and those are two key players, Gaines especially with Terrence Mitchell still out, not eligible to return for a few weeks still.
Yeah, I mean, you saw what happened last week in that game. Denzel Ward went out with the hip on the first drive. E.J. Gaines went out on the first drive. And Demarius Randall, of course, was inactive for that game, sort of a surprise scratch with a groin injury. They were really, really thin in the secondary, playing against the #1 scoring offense in the NFL. Really a rough day for those guys. So they added a few sort of back-end guys today. They claimed a few guys off of waivers, and they did, on a bright note, they got Demarius back in practice today, although on a limited basis. They also got Joe Schobert back today on a limited basis.
Yeah, that one's important because when you lose Kirksey, who had taken over that green sticker role, the guy making the calls, of course, when he went out, that went to Jamie Collins. You want to have Joe Schobert back out there doing that. He's been doing it for the most part for the last 2 seasons with a few exceptions here and there. He's the guy that, as Greg Williams likes to call, the quarterback of that defense, and he's really come to trust Schobert.
Yeah, he really has, and so that will be great because Schobert today, when we were asking him about Christian Kirksey, said that he is the heart and soul of the defense and the locker room. So that is a big, big loss. So perfect timing for Schobert to come back in, get that headset back on, hear the calls, be able to make those defensive calls, and try to hold this defense together. They've tumbled to 30th in the NFL. They've had a lot of rough weeks. They've played some really great quarterbacks and great offenses this year, and they are struggling right now.
Yeah, and they've been so dependent on the turnover, and having a banged-up secondary certainly doesn't help in that regard. We'll have full coverage of everything that happened here today, including Mary Kay's story on the coaching search, all at cleveland.com/Browns.